This conference will now be recorded.
So again, so anger, we sort of lose control of ourselves. I said the Gemara compares it to drunkenness. And Rabbi Pesach Kron tells a story about a gemach, a free loan society in Yerushalayim, where normally people was open all day Thursday and closed on Friday. Open all day Thursday, people would come in order if they needed some help for that Shabbos. Closed on Friday because usually the funds were already all spent. If everybody else could just mute, I apologize. You have a little bit of bounce back. Everyone else could just mute until you're ready to speak up, and then please don't be bashful and unmute and let us know you're there. So on Friday, usually by Friday time, things were already no money left. And there was a gemach that stayed open on Friday, and a person came in, a young man came in, asking for some help. Just 1 second. Let me see if I could. Just 1 second. Yes, so a person came in on Friday asking for some money. And the person told him, listen, I think you were here yesterday. And he said, I know I was here yesterday, but I really need. And he said, listen, we have a policy that we can't give to one person 2 days in a row. I apologize. The person became incensed and started shouting, and actually walked over and slapped the person in the face, slapped the leader of the gemach in the face. And the people there wanted to, jump in. And he said, leave it. He went into a different room, came out with some money, and said, here, have a good Shabbos. And people were in shock. Said, after him doing that, now you go and give him more money. And he explained, some people are frozen on the screen. Does everybody still hear me? Raise your hand if you hear me. Okay. Someone unmute. Everyone's frozen. Unmute if you hear me, please.
The audio is fine. The audio is fine.
Very good. Okay. Thank you.
We hear you, Rabbi. We hear
Everyone's
you.
frozen, as long as you can hear me. Okay. And he explained to the people there, and he said, I know this person. And if this is how he reacted, I know that's not him. And I know that he must be under the most incredible pressure. And that's why he reacted the way he did. And therefore, I would needed to help him. And that is a tremendous, tremendous glimpse that when we see someone angry or someone's angry at us, our immediate reaction, our almost knee-jerk, perhaps emphasis on the jerk, our knee-jerk reaction is to dish it back, give it back to them. How dare you speak to me? But then to take the deep breath and say, what must be going on in this person's life, in this person's world, in this person's day, in this person's moment, that they are acting in such a way, and then to try to understand it. How about ourselves? How does it affect us? So the Gemara, the Babylonian Talmud, source number 1, the Gemara in Psachim, says, Reish Lakish Amar Kol Adam Shekoes, every person who gets angry, Im Chacham Hu, if he's a wise person, Chachmato Mistaleket, his wisdom leaves him. He loses his wisdom, at least for that period of time, maybe more. Im navihu, if he is a prophet, nevuato mistaleket mimenu. His prophecy leaves him. And we have an example of this in the Torah, of a wise person who loses his wisdom when he's angry. And that person is none other than Moshe Rabbeinu, than Moses. That when it came to a certain battle and he thought that the men were acting in an immoral, immodest way, and he got angry, in the end, the laws that pertain to that battle in terms of the vessels that were taken as spoils from that war, which forms the foundation of our laws of kosherizing something, it was not taught by Moshe, it was taught by Elazar. Elazar, one of the sons of Aaron, the high priest. And all the commentators jump. Why is Elazar teaching us these halachot as opposed to Moshe? And our sages explain, because Moshe got angry, he lost his wisdom. So I mentioned before that Gemara compares it to being drunk, and you think that we're so wise when we're drunk, and we think when we're angry, we think we're acting in a very wise manner. I'm really going to show this person. But we're acting without wisdom. The Rambam, Maimonides, in Hilchot Deot, his laws of conduct, source number 2, he writes, Ubale kas, people who are Baale kas, right? The English says those who have frequently become angry. But we know a Baal Habayit, is the owner of the house, right? That's where he lives. So a Baale Kas is a person, that's where they live. They live in Kaas. Ein chayeyem chayim, their lives are not lives. They have no quality of life, it says in English. Therefore, we are commanded litrachek min hakas, to distance ourselves from anger, right? Until we could act, that we're not going to even feel things that would normally make other people feel angry. We get to the point we're not going to feel it. And I think there are 2 ways of getting to that point. One of them clearly was illustrated in the story I told before. And that is, if we can try to see it from the other person's perspective. I don't know why they're so angry, but I know something must be going on in their life. And to try to have that understanding, to be able to step back, right? A key saying that I apply a lot is, it's not about me. It's not about me. Not to say if someone is angry at me about something, that I shouldn't listen and say, okay, there probably is some truth there and areas that I need to improve, or I didn't act correctly. When I say it's not about me, it's not a matter of completely shirking any responsibility and saying, no, it's not about me, I do everything perfectly right. But to understand that the level of rage or the level of intensity that this has reached, it's not about me, right? There are other things going on that has built this into that, brought this up to that level. But Rambam, in his laws of conduct, right? These are laws of living life in a wholesome, rational, healthy, in body, in spirit way, says to try to get to the point, shelo yargish, not to feel afilu dvarim hamachisim, even those things that often and understandably do cause some anger. I didn't include the Orchat Tzadikim, which takes Orchat Tzadikim literally means the path of the righteous, and he takes their different midot, different character attributes, character challenges that we face, and he says that anger causes a person to be stubborn and to deny the truth. right? If I'm angry, I have these blinders on, and I'm not willing to hear the other side. I've mentioned before, when I was in yeshiva, I would tell my chavrusa, my study partner, if we're having an argument and I start to raise my voice, chances are it means I know that I'm wrong, okay? Otherwise, I stay nice and calm. When I know I'm right, I stay nice and calm. When I see I'm starting to sink, that's when I raise my voice. So say, do me a favor. When you see that happening, put me out of my misery quickly. Show me why I'm wrong, and we'll be able to go on. But that's what we tend to do, right? We're getting angry. We have these blinders. We have these blinders on. Very, very famously, source number 3 here, the Gemara Irvine says, and this is an expression that's often heard. The Gemara says, "B'shlosha dvarim adam nikar." In 3 ways, we can recognize who a person really is. Bekoso, bekiso, ubekaso. Right? Kos, kis, and kas. In Hebrew, kos is a cup. Right? So how is a person when he comes to his drinking? And we're not necessarily talking about water or orange juice over here. When it comes to a person's drinking, how does a person handle his kos? Kis is a pocket, a wallet, right? How does a person handle their monetary matters, right? Integrity in business, right? Generosity, right? How does a person handle their wallet? And kaso. So it's kis, kos, and kas. And kas, we know, is anger. Right? And Rashi says, She'eno kapdan yoter midai. How strict, how upset does a person get? And the Gemara says, and how, the Mishnah Pirkei Avos says, and how quick is that person to be calmed down afterwards? Right? The Gemara says a person that takes him a long time to get angry and a short time to calm down. The Gemara praises such a person. And like I said before, to try to go into where a person is at, try to understand where this person, we don't know why, but if you see this person is in such a state to have the generosity of spirit, not to jump in and give it back, but to try to take a deep breath. Another very beautiful story that Rabbi Pesach Krohn tells in his Maggid books is back about in the yeshiva of Navardik. These were these European yeshivot. And they didn't have dormitories, and they didn't have dining halls. And the boys would rent rooms by different people and would often do what was called Essen Tug. Essen is Yiddish for eating, Tug is Yiddish for a day. And this person would house these boys on Sunday, this person on Monday. Different days they would have probably a meal at different people's houses. So there was one building that was owned by a woman who was a bitter woman, a widowed woman, a bitter woman. And there are about 20 rooms there occupied by different students. And her anger would lead her. She'd turn off the electricity and the water at different times, often on Friday as the boys are trying to get ready for Shabbos. And, right, sometimes she would harass the boys. And the students started to move out. Who needs this? One boy remained by the name of Yosef Geffen. He deserves to have his name mentioned. One morning as he's coming into the building, she started to yell at him, "You must be crazy. How can you still stay? Everyone else moved out. Why are you crazy? Why are you still here?" And he paused, then he answered softly, "I'm staying for your sake. You live alone. I'm afraid you might fall or not be well or call out for help, and there'll be no one here to hear your cries. I understand that when you yell, you're just letting out your frustration about your life and the way things have gone for you and your struggles. And that's why I decided to stay in case you might ever need my help. The woman heard that and her angry face melted away. She said, forgive me. Forgive me. It never dawned on me that's why you were staying. How kind and gracious of you. Slowly the word got around and the boy started to move back into the building. We'll see the very last source, which to me is the most powerful of all the sources. But we end up hurting ourselves. Anger mostly hurts ourselves. The Orchat Tzadikim, again, an angry person cannot control his actions. Bnei Adam kishehem koasim, source number 4. Koasim, they get angry, umachazikim bekasam, and they take hold. They embrace that anger. Einam asim libam al mashosim, and they're not really clear. They don't have a clear head to ascertain, to measure that which they are doing. They do things in anger that they would never do were they not in such an angry state. The anger takes a person's seichel, their wisdom, their thought process out from inside, triggering disputes and all of these quarrels. And he continues, source number 5 there, Hakasan ein lo chen beinei habriot, v'hu sanu beineihem. Such a person, right, does not find favor in the eyes of people and ends up being hated by them. People don't accept this person's actions. Hakasanu koved al bnei beito, hashom tamid kaso tlunato. He becomes a burden. He or she becomes a burden on their own family, who have to constantly hear their anger and their complaints. You know, we said before, the Gemara says there are 3 ways that a person can be judged, right? Kos, kis, and kas, anger. Well, very often, and I've attended different rabbinic conventions where this comes up, where you sometimes have people who on the outside are the most warm, gracious, calm people around, but at home they could be terrible dictators. Right? Actually, you have many abuse situations where the person on the outside is just so kind and sweet, but the person is at home, right? Amongst others, amongst strangers, it's a lot easier to control our anger, right? So the kas aspect of measuring a person is better measured how is a person with their immediate family than they are with strangers. All right, I always like to give the example. If I'm standing by Michelson and Culver and I turn around suddenly and there's someone standing right there, what do I say? Excuse me, sir, excuse me, ma'am, I didn't see you there. If I'm home, or if we're home by our refrigerator, and we open the refrigerator looking inside, and a child comes behind us, what are you doing standing there? Right? To a stranger, it's excuse me. Right? To someone close to us, what are you standing right behind me for? Very, very often, right? It's to those who are closest to us that we have less patience and might be closer to angering. And that's why I say that the kas aspect is really best measured by those closest to us. and not by strangers. He actually continued, I didn't copy this, and says that if an angry person, even if he has Torah and Maasim Tovim, other people can't learn from him or her. Again, why is that? Who can learn from an angry person? I ask a question. I'm not going to ask a question. If it's not a good question, on one hand, we say, Eina Baishan Lomed. A person who's very, very shy, gets embarrassed easily, he can't really learn. Why not? Because I'm afraid to ask a question. It might be a great question, but maybe it's a stupid question. Maybe people will laugh at me. People will say, oh, that's obvious. Eina Baishan, a embarrassed person, can't learn well. The Eina Kasan Melamed. But a person who gets easily angered, he cannot teach. He can't be a person who will teach others, because who's going to want to learn from him? They'll be afraid if they don't get it right, they don't understand it, right? They'll get angry, or it's just an unpleasant person. It's an unpleasant person to be around. Yeah. And it actually, anger undermines our own spiritual growth. There's a very interesting, somewhat Kabbalistic idea. That's source number 6. Shekol laila be'et aliyat nishamot. Every night when the nishamot, right, we have different levels, the Kabbalists teach us, of soul. And there are parts that leave our body. We stay alive, of course, but there are parts that leave our body when we sleep. And that's the Moda Ani. We thank you, God. Shehechazarta bi nishmati b'chemla. You've returned my soul to me with compassion. Rabba munatecha. Great is faith. Great is your, God, faith in us. You've given us another day. And the Ramchal explains that the way that a person can sometimes have a dream that actually is a prediction of the future, that comes from this sleep of ours. That when we sleep, parts of our neshama leave, it goes up into the spiritual realm that's not bound by time, and it can gain access to information. And it comes back, and a person can have a dream about that. But he writes, when the neshamot leave the body, ascend, Kotevet hayad kol mashechet adam b'zeh hayom. The hand writes down all of the wrongdoings that were done on that day. V'neim hayalo leiv ragaz ba'otayom. The person had an angry heart on that day. Eino kotevet hayad elachet ragza nuto. The only thing that's written down is that anger. V'az eino tzricha lichtov yoter. There's no need to write anymore. Me'achar deda be kulo be. Right? If that is there, then it's all there. If the person was angry, then we would say all heck probably broke loose. And all other things are included in there. That's what leads to so many other misdoings. V'zelo alta biyado. We'll soon see that source. The Gemara says an angry person, lo alta biyado, the only thing in their hand is that. So he understands that in a Kabbalistic sense. The only thing that the hand will write is about that anger. And the English puts in clearly a person's positive acts are also seen. Here the focus is on the importance of improving one's shortcomings. So that is a midah that leads to so many other things that we do wrong. The Gemara Bavli and Gemara Shabbos again. The Gemara says, "Hamakareya bigadav bechamoto." If a person tears their garments in their anger, V'hamishaber kelav b'chamato, or breaks things in their anger. Hamafazer ma'otav, or throws things around, money around in their anger. Yehei beinecha ka'oved avoda zara. It's as if they're serving idolatry. And this very strange Gemara, we'll soon see, actually, I think, is a key. I said before, I think there are two main keys to getting oneself to be able to diffuse an anger-causing situation and not allow ourselves to be dragged in and get angry. And one of them is trying to understand it's not about me. There must be a lot going on in this person's life, and to try to have a sense of sympathy. You know, it's interesting. When we see a child having a tantrum, and they're yelling, and they're screaming, and they're banging on the floor, and you pick them up, they start banging and kicking you. You don't get angry. You feel bad for the kid. The kid's having a meltdown. The kid's having a meltdown. And what do? As they're banging and kicking you, you hug them and say, it's okay, sweetheart. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Why don't you get angry? They're yelling, I hate you. They're kicking you. They're punching you. Why don't you get angry? Because you understand. They're having a meltdown. Well, adults also have meltdowns. And granted, when someone's having such a meltdown, picking them up and hugging them and saying they're there, it might work sometimes, but it might other times be somewhat counterproductive. But nevertheless, number one, if our mindset could be, they're having a meltdown. They're having a meltdown. It's an adult meltdown. And the same sympathy that we feel for a toddler, a child, when they're having their age-appropriate meltdowns, for an adult, this is an age-appropriate, if not necessarily situationally appropriate, but that's how this age people have their meltdowns, and to try to have that understanding. So that's one key. The other key, I think, is in this Gemara Shabbos, which compares anger to idolatry. The Gemara brings a pasuk, actually, Maikra. What is the reading, the verse, the pasuk that indicates this? The pasuk says, Lo yevicha el zar, v'lo tishtachaver el nechar. Don't have bicha in you, amongst you, right? But literally in you, an el zar, a foreign god. Do not bow down to these alien gods. So generally it means, bicha means amongst you. Israel, children of Israel, there should not be amongst you foreign gods to which you attribute strength, ability. But it literally says, bicha, inside of you. So the Gemara says, Ezu el zar sheyesh begufo shel adam. What foreign god is there that's literally inside of us? Havi omer, I would say, ze yetzer hara. That is the evil inclination. And when a person loses control and gets angry, what do? They worship. They're worshiping this el zar, this evil inclination inside of us. I once heard a very, very beautiful explanation on the comparison between getting angry and serving idolatry. When I get angry, and I think this is the second key towards bringing ourselves to be able to deal gently, generously, calmly when these situations come at us. Why am I angry? Because this is not what should have happened. This is terrible. This is not what's supposed to be. It should not have happened like this. Let me paraphrase. Why am I angry? Because if I was running the world, If I was in charge here, if I was running the world, this would never have happened. I would have made sure that this did not happen. If I was running the world, if I was in control here. And that, my friends, is idolatry. That is idolatry. I would do a better job than God when it comes to running this world. That is the idolatry. I found another God who could do a better job. Guess who that other God is? Hey, you're looking at him. Yours truly. I'm angry because God did not do this right. You know, one of the things that really shook me, I wasn't in Orange County all that long, and I attended a funeral that I was not dealing with. I was there attending it, and the rabbi who was running it was not an Orthodox rabbi, and his message was, God got it wrong this time. That was his message. God got it wrong this time. He was presenting that in the context of how wonderful a person this person was and how much this person had suffered. And I'm all in on speaking about the virtues of a person, and if they've been through suffering, how they've gone through it and suffered and did it in a noble manner. I'm all in. But the way to present that is not that God got it wrong. The whole thing of a funeral is Baruch Dayan Emet. Blessed is the true judge. That is what the whole theme of a proper Jewish funeral. And this is like Avodah Zarah. This is like idolatry. I'm angry because I could have done this better than others. I would have done this better than God. If I was in charge, I would have done it better. That, I think, is what is the comparison the Gemara makes between anger and idolatry. And to me, that is a second key towards keeping ourselves calm and being able to diffuse a situation. You know, if right before a situation that would normally get me angry, if right before someone will whisper in my ears and say, this and this is going to happen, and it's coming your way because God wants you to see just how you can handle this. And it's not just to see how you can handle this, like we saw by Avraham's nisyonot, his challenges. It wasn't to see how he's going to handle it. God knows what's going to happen. It's that we are transformed by the experiences that we go through. And Avram, it's not that he passed numbers, challenges, test number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. By overcoming the first challenge, he was now a different person who can handle number 2, which made him a different person who can handle number 3. And only after he went through the 9 and all those transformations was he able to handle number 10. So if someone will whisper in your ear and say, this, you're about to have a very challenging situation, and God is sending you this situation because this is your opportunity to overcome this challenge. And as a result, you will be a different person. Because every experience that we have and the way we deal with it changes who we are as a human being, who we are as an Oved Hashem, as a servant of God. Every single experience that we have. So someone to whisper and say, listen, this person's going to unload on you. And God said, let him go to Ciner instead of someone else. Because God said, this is an opportunity for Ciner to stay calm under a very, very challenging situation. And that's going to make him a better human being. That's going to make him closer to his friends, closer to his family, closer to his community, closer to God. If we would have that heads up, when the person comes, like, oh, how about that? I was expecting you, right? And then we're good. We're good to go. So I'm giving you that heads up right now. And I'm giving myself that heads up right now. Because that's the truth. That's the truth. If the hashgacha pratis, if the divine providence orchestrated that you be there, full frontal, to take this from this person, that's because this is your tafkid right now. This is your mission right now. To help this person. To help this person. And that's really the combination of these two approaches. Number one, to recognize this is the same way a child, a toddler has a tantrum. You don't get angry, you hug them and say, sweetheart, calm down. We love you. It's okay. It's okay. When an adult has a tantrum, so then in an adult appropriate way responds with a, it's okay, sweetheart. It's okay, my buddy. It's okay, friend. I understand. In a situational appropriate manner, understand that this person is going through a tough time and recognize that and have compassion. And at the same time realize, well, why is he having this adult tantrum at my doorstep, in my office, in my face? Because God said, you are the one who could best handle this. You are the one who could best help this person. And in the process, help yourself. Make yourself that much more of a better person. So far, I've been focusing mostly on a situation that causes me anger. Let's say there's no one situation. Well, maybe it was years ago. I'm angry at this person because they did this or they didn't do that. They said this or they didn't say that. And whenever I see that person, I've got that animosity, that nitira I harbor inside of me. And I'm carrying that around. So that Kabbalistic source that we saw in number 6 is based on this source number 8, the Gemara Kedushin. And I want to take it in a non-Kabbalistic way. I want to take it in a very simple way. Darash Bar Kafra, source number 8, the last source that we have. Bar Kafra taught, Ragzan, an angry person, Ragzan is a person who keeps getting angry. Lo alta biyado ella ragza nuta. What did that person have from all of it? Nothing but their anger. Nothing but their anger. There was a book I read a little while ago. I believe it's called The Choice by, I forget the name of the author now, an amazing woman, Hungarian woman, Holocaust survivor. If someone, Edgan, she spoke here in Orange County. Amazing, amazing. Holocaust survivor, Dr. Mengele, you name it. But she writes how she didn't forgive them that it's okay what they did. She forgave because she did not, whatever they did, that's between them and God, and they'll have to work that out. But she was not going to be carrying that anger, that pain around inside. And a term that I use all the time when it comes to this is corrosive. Anger is corrosive. It eats away at the person who is carrying it. They're the ones who are carrying that weight, that load, that heaviness. All they've got, lo alta biado, the Gemara says, all they've got is their anger. It infects everything else. It corrodes. It eats away at everything else. And the one that loses the most is the one who decides to carry it around with them. Rabbi Yehuda Manlikorn, Zechona Livracha, was a dear mentor of mine when I was teaching in Israel. He passed away very suddenly. He was the Menahel, and I was one of the young rabbis at the time. I once was a young rabbi, yes. I was one of the young rabbis at the time, and he was a wonderful, wonderful mentor in dealing with people. A wonderful mentor in dealing with people. He used to always say that it drove him crazy when people who were in charge of schools, as he was, would use the term kicking someone out or throwing someone out. You don't throw a person out, you throw out the garbage. You don't kick anybody. You might have to ask someone to leave, but you don't throw them out and you don't kick them out. You might have to ask them to leave. But when he would ask a boy to leave the yeshiva, he would make sure that the boy had a place to stay until he could find another yeshiva, another place to stay. Often that meant by other rabbis' houses, often it meant by his own house. Say, listen, you have to leave the dormitory. Sorry, I can't have you in the dormitory. The things you're doing, the influence you're having, pack your bags and come down to my house. You need a place to sleep. That was the person, the type of person he was, and the approach that he had to human beings and to running a yeshiva. So he would tell a great story that I shared before. So a guy's driving to work, and there's a lot of traffic, and there's a person trying to get into his lane, and he taps on the brake and very generously waves the person in, and the person comes in, and he's feeling really good about having done that. Well, the lanes are moving slowly. About a mile later, 10, 15 minutes later, he's stuck in a lane that's not moving at all. And he wants to get into the other lane, and no one's letting him in. And then he sees that person that he let in a mile back. And he waves again, the same way that he waved him the first time to let him in. He waves again, it's me, let me in. I want to say the guy waved back in a different manner than he had waved the first time. And he is burning mad. He is incensed. And he's stuck there. Finally, a half hour late, 40 minutes, he gets to work. And that guy's face is etched in his mind. And he walks in and he snaps at the secretary and snaps at his coworkers, and his wife calls and he snaps at her, and his kids call and he snaps at them. This person has ruined his day. The audacity, after he was nice enough to let that guy in, that very same guy flips him off like, oh, he's burning mad. Burning mad. This whole day is ruined. Finally, it's 6 o'clock at night. Hits the elevator button. He's on the 6th floor, starts his way down. The elevator stops at the 2nd floor. Door is open. That guy walks in. That guy walks in. And he looks at him and says, you, excuse me, you, me, you ruined my day. You ruined my wife's angry, my kids. He says, sorry, do I know you? Have we ever met? Do I know you? This guy had a fine day. He's getting along with his wife and kids and co-workers. And this guy carrying it inside the whole day, eating away at him. Who loses? Who loses? Lo alta biyado ela ragzan muta. All you've got in your hand, all you've got is your anger. No one else. Everyone else is going on with their life. Everyone else, it's good. They're okay. And we carry it around, keep it inside, and allow it to eat away at ourselves. It harms us physically, literally, physically, literally. Right? High blood pressure, anxiety. It harms us physically, it harms us emotionally, it harms us socially, and it harms us spiritually. And like I said, I think the two keys to dealing with the situations, whether it's in my face now how I deal with it, or it's an old grudge that I've been carrying along for who knows how long, is to recognize, number one, this person's having their tantrum, or was having their tough day, or acted wrongly. It happens. Might have happened to me once or twice in my life also. And B, it was sent to me. It was heaven sent to me because I can best deal with it. And if I haven't dealt with it so well for the past day, month, year, decade, now's the time that I can turn around and try to work on that and try to get past it, not carry it around anymore, and finally utilize that opportunity that was sent to me to A, help that person, and B, make myself into a better person. Okay, my friends, I will call it over here. Anybody, any comments, questions? Cheryl, it's so good to see you. It was great seeing Morris, but that was half. That was half the picture. Now it's great seeing the whole picture. Okay, everybody gone?
Rabbi,
Yes.
your message today reminds me of the story in Bereshit where Cain gets angry and God comes to him and says, "Why are you angry?" But implicit in that question, I think, is, do you know why you're angry? And God put the responsibility back on Cain for his own anger.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. Nice. Yeah. Yeah. You know, the old, he made me angry. No one makes you angry. Someone might have created a challenging situation, but no one made you angry. Right? You decided that you were going to allow yourself to become angry. But no one makes you angry. I think that's a very important point that you're making, David. Thank you. Good.
Rabbi, I have a saying
Yes.
that anger gets you there and pride keeps you there.
Nice.
Mm.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. That's nice, Basil. That's very, very true. And that's one of the things you said before about the stubbornness and the arrogance. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I often, well, I think we all have this, but I think a job as a rabbi might come a little more often than others. But no, you're not. I think we all have to deal with this, of learning how to help a person get off of their horse. Right? Finding a way to help them get down in a dignified manner. Right? They staked out a position, and and they know they want to try to walk it back, to try to find a way to let them do it, keeping their pride intact. Right? Somehow help them do it in a dignified manner, because that's very good. Anger gets you there, and it's pride that keeps them there. So sometimes it takes a lot of thinking. How can I allow this person to step back from the edge there, retaining their pride? Yeah, that's excellent, Basil. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, my friends. Everyone else is muted. Okay. All right, everybody. Good seeing you. Those who can join us. We're all outside now. Outside all the time now with the new restrictions. But we're doing it. We're having Aminyanim and seeing those that we can see when we can, and it's good seeing those. And actually, I wanted to ask: should we go back to having Havdalah online now that Shabbos ends early?
I think so, Rabbi.
Okay.
We try it again.
Yeah. I'm doing it either way. Just a matter of setting up the. Yeah, I think it's a nice way to get together again for those who like to. Yeah. For a while, we were davening after Shabbos ended to drive back. Now the days are so short, so we're davening, and then I'm going home. Good. Yeah. So in the email that goes out, I'll let everybody know what time we'll call it for. Usually about 20 minutes after Shabbos actually ends, which gives me a chance to get back home and do that. Good. Okay, everybody. Good seeing everybody.
Stay on so we can say hello. Okay.
There's a very special simcha this morning. The Bradley Nuttall and Karen Shimoni, their little boy had their bris, and it was very special seeing a picture of Marcel and Joel and Bradley and the little boy. Four generations of Nuttall men. Yeah, very, very special. Especially, we all know about Marcel's story, what he went through during the war, and to then be there at his great grandson's bris was a big bracha. Baruch Hashem. Lots of good things happen. Baruch Hashem. Okay, everybody, be well, be safe, be healthy.
Thank you.
We'll be back soon enough. Okay, everybody.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Be well, everybody. Be well, Ken. Good seeing you.
So how you guys? Oh, they're gone. They're gone.